We spend a lot of time together at practice, but do you remember a specific moment where we became like real friends?
No, I really don't.
Welcome back to Friendlies, everybody. Today I am so excited to be here in person with our guest. Not only is she an absolute pillar of the NWSL and the North Carolina Courage, but she's also one of my very best friends. It's Meredith Speck. Welcome to Friendlies.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited that you're here.
I'm so excited to be here. I didn't think it would ever happen.
You didn't?
No.
How do you think this interview is going to go?
I think it's going to go really well for us.
Oh my God.
I think we're going to learn a lot about each other.
I'm so excited. Okay, 2025 marks Meredith's 10th season in the NWSL. In that decade, she's won 3 NWSL championships, 3 Shields, and 2 Challenge Cups. Mary, you aren't just a big part of my soccer story. You feel like the kind of journey woman the NWSL has built itself upon. So I'm thankful that you're here and that you're going to be a guest on the show. And I'm also thankful to you for having me here in your space in the Courage locker room.
Literally anytime, Sam.
So me and the world most recently saw you featured on the new Amazon Prime docuseries For the Win, which followed you and the Courage as you prepared to face the Kansas City Current on their home turf in the playoffs last season. The Courage ended up losing that game and getting their postseason cut short, but I have to say, as your former teammate and friend, it was really cool to see your leadership and spirit like kind of finally captured on screen. Everybody was talking about you being the glue of the team, someone willing to do anything for their club. When did you realize you were going to get so much screen time in this docuseries?
I didn't realize I was going to get so much screen time until I saw the documentary come out. I had been given one clip to okay for the documentary leading up to its release, which we decided should not be included.
We decided together.
Yeah, well, I actually asked you about that one and we said no. But I didn't know, they had interviewed 4 players. Heather O'Reilly had reached out to me and mentioned that they asked her a few questions about me for it. So I had an idea, but no, I thought it was gonna be about the Courage, really, is what my assumption was.
How did it make you feel to be featured so much?
It felt weird and surprising, but also it was I felt very proud. I think I started off at the Flash, but the Courage is very much feels very near and dear to me as far as my career and my club. So I felt that they understood my love for the club, and so I was glad that it was recognized.
That's amazing. When you heard players like Heyo saying so many nice things about you, did you feel almost validated for having been such an important part of this club over the years? And what did you think of hearing so many compliments about yourself?
Yeah, it felt really special. I feel like I've said it in so many different ways, which is when I really look back on what I want people to say about me, of course I want to have made an impact competitive wise on the field, but in 50 years, what's going to mean more to me is probably oh, she was a really great teammate and she helped me through a hard time, or she helped me improve. So kind of hearing those things. And I mentioned to Heather when she joined the team that she was my idol and she was my literally Facebook profile picture for a while. So hearing her say those things about me was a really special moment.
Oh, that is really, really cool. Well, we're going to circle all the way back to the Courage. I just wanted to start us off with the Amazon docuseries. I want to start at the beginning with you growing up in Long Island. You grew up playing soccer with your sisters, and you were coached by your parents. Do you think that soccer being such a big part of your family life helped cement the sport as something you wanted to build your life and career around?
Yeah, I think I had a really special, both of my parents coached me later in my career or youth career than I think most people's parents, they sideline coached them, but mine were actually coaching me. My dad coached me in high school and my mom coached me up until 8th grade. And I think I had very similar support from both of them, but their styles were very different. And my dad is hilarious. He'll be at the game this weekend. I'm sure you'll hear him. But he was I always felt very loved and encouraged by him, but he instilled integrity both for the game and the club and who you're representing outside of myself. And I think that is something that I've tried to really carry on, but he used me as the example. I was kicked out of training all of the time for things my freshman year, I'm the only freshman to make the team. A bunch of the seniors are in line talking while the coach is talking in front of me, and he's like, Meredith, are you talking? And I'm I'm not talking. He's get out of practice. And I was
your dad?
My dad. And I'm I wasn't saying anything. I'm not gonna tell him that it was the seniors who were talking. So I was like, okay. So I walked to the parking lot and I sat in the parking lot for my first ever high school soccer practice.
Was it to prove that he wasn't taking it easy on you, or was it to use you to set an example for the rest of the team?
I think it was both. I think he was like we have standards, don't talk when the coach is talking, and also I'm not going to treat my daughter special at all. And he did not.
In fact, I'm going to treat her worse than everybody else.
Yes, exactly. There was no nepotism.
Does your dad still give you pointers about the game?
Yes.
Is it annoying?
He is my biggest fan, so I can't be annoyed by it. He sends like the most special, I mean, I wish I could save and read you a text message, but it'll be like an inspirational quote, and then it'll be like, hashtag number 25, heart emoji, soccer ball emoji, number 1 emoji. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm pumped.
That's really cute. What's his typical advice to you?
Shoot, honestly, is the number one critique I get almost all of the time. But yeah, I mean, I think he just wants to make sure that I'm always trying. We do post-game running, right? And he'll be like, I noticed that you weren't first every time. And I'm like, well, sorry. What do you want from me?
Once a coach, always a coach, I guess.
Truly.
I love your dad.
I love my dad too.
Something else about you that I want to discuss here today is that you're not just a soccer player. You are actually one of the smartest people I know. You went to Yale. You're very up to date on politics. You're reading articles, you're reading books, you're debating things with me, with my husband Pat, every chance that you get. Why do you think it's such a priority for you to keep learning and growing your IQ off the field?
For us, I thought in 2020 it became a reality of we may be asked about things outside of soccer and that people care about our opinion and we can make a difference. And so I personally feel that the more I read and the more I understand and the more I have conversations with people that have similar and different ideas to me, the more prepared I feel to talk about these things. And I don't think I'm always gonna get it right, but I think that being too scared to have the conversation because you just haven't put in enough effort to have the confidence to try to talk about those things is the biggest setback. So I just wanna be prepared enough to have the courage to have the conversation, and then I think we can have an impact on maybe someone.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I've always really loved that about you. So you went to Yale, you played soccer there, obviously, and then you chose to go play soccer professionally in Sweden. And I'm wondering if this kind of natural curiosity that you have was part of the decision to go off and go across the ocean and play somewhere totally new.
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved traveling. I've always loved integrating into a different life and seeing how people live. I think it's fascinating. I think human beings are fascinating just in general. I studied psychology at Yale, so I've always been intrigued in why people do what they do. So going to Sweden was an incredible experience. I mean, soccer-wise, they approached everything so differently. I will never forget one of my first games. Someone gets tackled and she's rolled her ankle. The trainer comes out and just they take off her boot and then on top of her cleat and socks, they just taped over everything. And I was like, that doesn't seem right. But they're that's what we do here. And I was like, okay.
And then she just kept playing?
Kept playing.
With a cast on her ankle?
Basically. And I was like, okay, I'm somewhere else. This is gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
But it was an incredible experience. The people there were wonderful. I was felt supported, but out of my comfort zone, which is, I feel the most important balance.
Yeah, for sure. Well, after your time in Sweden, you came back to the States, you played briefly for the Portland Thorns. Before, in 2016, you came to the Western New York Flash, you joined up with me, and I remember you actually showing up on the first day because I knew who you were from our...
Oh, Melissa Gavin.
Melissa Gavin, who Mary played with at Yale, and I played with in all my club years for Scorpions growing up. Mm-hmm. Shout out Melissa Gavin. And Melissa always raved about you and said that you were so funny. So I was like, oh, I could be friends with this girl. And here she is. It's Mary.
Here she is.
We spend a lot of time together at practice. But do you remember a specific moment where we became real friends?
No, I really don't. But I feel that's how the best friendships happen is all of a sudden you're just gravitating towards them in the locker room or on away trips. I mean, I think what happened naturally is what we wanted to do. I feel especially traveling is when you kind of figure out the people of where they want to go in their free time and the coffee shops that they want to go to and those things. And I felt we aligned kind of naturally. Mm-hmm. But I don't remember an exact moment. Do you?
No, I don't either. I really thought we were going to get a great story out of this, a great origin story. But I do think what and I say this to you a lot, is so special about our friendship is that I very quickly with you, and I think maybe we were raised similarly. We're both from the Northeast. I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe it's just this one mutual friend that we have had throughout our younger lives. But I feel very myself with you, and I have no walls up and no guards up, and I think that to become friends with somebody in such a comfortable way so quickly is really rare. And I have felt throughout our whole friendship and all of our time as teammates together that I could always just be exactly as I am with you, even if it's happy, sad, weird, I'm having an off day, I'm having an off week. I've always just felt totally accepted by you, and I think that our friendship means a lot to me for that reason, because I feel like you see me as actually me. So our first season together with the Flash, there was a lot of new people on the roster. We had a new coaching staff. Wikipedia actually describes the expectations for us this season as low, which is actually hysterical, I think.
No, it is. Weren't we like predicted to finish last?
I think so. We didn't feel stacked. We didn't feel primed to have a really successful year.
Which is crazy when you actually look at the roster.
The roster now looks stacked. But we're telling you back then, this was like kind of a Cinderella story. But we proved the Wikipedia writer wrong.
Yeah.
Because we made it all the way to the NWSL final against the Washington Spirit. Lynn Williams scores this crazy goal, sends us to penalty kicks. We won.
On your birthday.
On my birthday, October 9th, 2016. We won. Sabrina D'Angelo made a bunch of penalty kick saves. And I was rewatching clips from this recently because I just, rewatched my old highlights to make myself feel better a lot. It's crazy to think how much the NWSL has changed in these past 9 years. So in 2016, that game was watched on TV by 180,000 people. In comparison, last year's NWSL final was in a stadium custom built for women's soccer with 11,000 fans in person and more than 960,000 watching from homes, bars, and watch parties all over the country. Do you reflect on how much this league has grown since we entered it, and what does it make you think?
It is really exciting and impressive and kind of jarring sometimes. Like, I think when we go to like LA or even the Bay game last year, like exceeded my expectation. I was like, it's funny that the atmosphere and the amount of fans like is still kind of surprising to me, because I think for a lot of people that have come in the last 3 years or so, like it's so normal for them. And I think it's kind of nice that I get to like still be delighted by it, but that it is the expectation. Like, I can appreciate how far it's come, but like definitely the fact that we're not taking any steps backwards is like very encouraging and like a refreshing feeling. I feel like for a while we were like living in this like uncertainty of how much can we demand and are we going to move forward, and now it's just kind of like all like full steam ahead.
Yeah, it's clear now that everything's going up, where I do remember that time of the previous 2 leagues had obviously folded, and we were in this kind of trepidatious time of, can we keep pushing, or is this league in danger of like also folding and following the same fate that the previous leagues did? And it feels now that we're totally past that.
Exactly. And I think like, of course, like I have so much appreciation for the fans, but it has started to feel less like a duty to the fans of like kind of like, we need you to come. Like now it's like, we are putting on entertaining performances and you should come out because you're gonna like, it's gonna be fun for you, rather than like, we really need your support in order to survive.
Yeah, which I think years ago, this was viewed as social impact. You should do this. Owners should invest. It's the right thing to do. More like a moral imperative or a charity than a business proposition or this is going to be fun, so you should come. You don't have to do me any favors. Yeah. And I think that what you're saying follows that same idea.
Yeah, definitely. That is exactly what I'm saying.
Oh my gosh, we're so on the same page. Okay, back to our big win in 2016. Okay. Just a few months after we won, the team was bought and relocated here to North Carolina. And this was the first time an NWSL team had been sold. And like so much else in the women's sports world, it kind of felt like uncharted territory. I remember being on the call and just being like, what are these people talking about? Like, who's in charge here? But I remember we were excited about the new opportunity. Were there any anxieties, do you think, within the team about making this move, or did it feel totally positive at the time?
I think the biggest question was, I feel like we were all like, and everyone's coming, like everyone gets to come, like you're not leaving people behind in Buffalo, right? Like,
and they were like, no, but if you have a storage locker up there, we're not getting it. So you're losing your couch. And I was like, whatever.
I was like, this feels like a personal story. Personal problem for sure. I wish I could be like, oh, I remember exactly what they said to us and my feelings. But I do remember being like, this is an upgrade. And I also remember getting here feeling like it was such an upgrade when we saw the facilities and the stadium. I mean, we went from training in a bubble every day and driving 2 hours for our home games to like having beautiful facilities in a gorgeous stadium.
I think the upgrade was getting to train outside on grass.
Seeing the sun.
Seeing the sun. We were in Western New York notoriously training on an indoor field under a bubble on turf, even in the summer. So it was obviously hot but dark in the summer and cold but dark in the winter, and it was really crazy. So to come here to this facility and to be playing on grass in the sun every day was like kind of a huge relief.
It was, but I mean, think about how good our skin was because of that year in the bubble.
I wish. When did you know that things were going to be different in North Carolina?
We were good, we had won. And then we start preseason, and I actually remember, I don't know if you're gonna be like, but we had signed 2 Brazilians. And like week 1, you were like, she's gonna be really good for us. And that was Dabinia, and she was really good for us.
Yeah.
And then we started the season, and we had won our first 4 games. We added a few pieces, and we had like a good, solid returning group, and I was like, we're gonna do something special.
Well, because I think in 2016, it felt like a fluke. It felt like it was a Cinderella story. We won by a miracle, and like, look, wow, look, but then coming here, and we started doing so well and like winning every game, and it started to feel real. Like, wow, we are actually good. That wasn't a fluke, and we can continue to build on that.
How we won in 2016, we're kind of like digging deep, and I almost would say like uncoachable intangibles that like bring a group together, and like the ability to not worry about going down a goal or knowing that you're gonna like be able to fight back. Like we refined those tools in 2016, and then we added like a little bit of sophistication in 2017, which was an unbeatable combination.
I remember you for this team as described as you were in the docuseries, really the glue to the team. No matter what kind of playing time you were getting, you've always been consistent in the way that you show up to the locker room. What do you remember about that first year in North Carolina for you, having this place kind of start to become, unknowingly at the time, home for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the girls were so special to me immediately. And I mean, when I look back at my whole career, but definitely those 2017 through, I'll say 2020, even though that was a weird year for the, like, I took so much pride in like prepare, like we would play against each other all week long. We would play 11v11 on Wednesday, and I was like, if I can make this scrimmage so hard for Sam today, like on Saturday she's going to be so prepared. So like I took so much pride in preparing you for the game. I didn't know if I was going to get any minutes or if I was going to dress, but I was like, if she's having a hard time playing against me and feels better in the game, like that's a huge win for Sam and me and then the team in general. And so I felt, and then I also think you were so like, you would tell me that I was helpful, and like that was also like important to me because I was like, okay, like she's noticing the impact I'm having or the amount of effort I'm putting into something. And so like I felt like a really, between us, nice relationship, but also like I felt like the team kind of in general. Like I know when we would gather as like our, you know, subgroup, we'd be like, okay, like we're doing this for us, but we're doing this for them, and like if we're all invested, we're gonna have success.
Yeah, I think that relationship you're describing where, yeah, in a lot of ways in professional soccer, the starters and the subs are separated by who's playing in the games and then who has to do the running and then who's training hard the next day. But I think that somehow the culture of our group of girls really was maintained. But I do think it was through people like you leading. It's easy for subs to get down or maybe have an attitude, and I think that you were leading the way and being like, oh, no, our job is really important here. And I think that you helped prove that. Do you remember anything specific about North Carolina starting to feel like home for you, or has it always just been the club?
Well, I just bought a house.
So right now.
So it's 2025 is the year where North Carolina became my home. I still have a New York license. I still have a New York license plate, but I think it's maybe starting to like feel official. I think also like for so long we didn't have a apartment for the whole year. Like
right.
At the end of the season we would move in and out. So of course within like the last 3 years it has started to feel more like home. My stuff is all here. I mean, I still go home to Long Island for the holidays, but it is definitely more becoming my home now.
Something else I want to keep talking about is how your playing time, especially in your early years here at the Courage, was very uneven. Sometimes you'd be a starter, other years you would get minimal or no playing time. And you used to say that game day was just one day a week, but you had the 5 or 6 other days to train, and that being the best as a team was what was most important to you. You were just talking about all of this. Internally, as, just Mary, not as the glue of the North Carolina Courage, how are you pushing through all of that uncertainty and that competitiveness on the roster and, continuing to be like, I am pushing myself as a professional athlete to be here and earn minutes?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I'm a professional athlete, I'm competitive, I want to play. I want to start, I want to make an impact, I want to help my team. Those are all facts. I think what I have come to try to learn is I can only control so many things. And what I can control is my coach's opinion of me. And I know that we all have the same goal, which is they're making decisions of who they think is going to win the game. And so I think for me, getting caught up in someone's opinion of you on a given day isn't going to help you prepare for anything. I have my own opinion of myself, and I think that I'm a good enough player to compete with my teammates every day. So I think for me, it's just making sure that I hold myself to the highest standard that I can, and then whatever happens, that's someone else's opinion and I can't control that.
Did you ever consider that you could get more playing time on a different team?
Definitely. I mean, every person that leaves the Courage becomes a starter for another team in the NWSL. That's almost a fact. You leave here and you're almost instantly making an impact somewhere else. I love my daily life here so much, and I don't know if it's, for me, playing time somewhere else is more important than all of the other things I get on a daily basis here.
Yeah, I think just especially knowing kind of what you said early on about the girls being so special here, and I miss being here. And I have been away from this club now for years, and I think I have yet to find the camaraderie and deep friendships that I had when I played here for the Courage. And so I actually think that answer, I totally understand, and it makes a lot of sense to me. You earned a place on the team as more of a starter, but you tore your ACL in 2023. In this time where you couldn't play and the Courage was kind of redefining itself, where did you put your energy? And did you discover anything new about yourself that you loved away from the field?
Well, it's so funny because even in 18-year-old Meredith Speck was I'm so forward thinking, I'm gonna go to Yale, I'm gonna set my future up, and it's not gonna be as a soccer player. So I had other offers going into college, but I was no, I'm gonna go to Yale because that's good for my future. And here I am at 32 still playing soccer, so you just can't prepare at all, right? But I think I've always felt so strongly that I didn't, and I think it's probably because I watched my sisters graduate from college and wrestle with this identity of I was a soccer player for so long, and now who am I? And so I really have felt I always fought against simply defining myself as a soccer player, which is also probably why playing time to me on game day is always the goal, but not the most important thing to me. So I feel I've always invested my time in trying to be the best teammate and friend to the people on the team. So when I got hurt, although I was a starter at the time, I felt I had already practiced being this voice off the field. And so it really, I've obviously spent more time focusing on myself rehab wise, but as far as my role on the team, it didn't really change that much because I felt I had prepared of losing soccer, that loss of soccer didn't hit so hard.
When I was going through my knee injury that ultimately was the end of my career, the thing I was most grateful that I had was a podcast. But I hadn't played that kind of role that you took pride in playing. And I think that I needed something off the field to remind me that I could bring value to a space. And then when I did end up having to transition away from soccer, I was really grateful that I had something.
Yeah.
And so I think, to your point, not defining yourself on your playing time in games was key in helping you get through your injury, because you were still, you knew you were still a valuable person in this locker room and in this space. When you returned to the field in 2024, It also seems like the Courage are really coming out the other side of a rebuilding period. In what ways do you think your experience with all of these ups and downs have changed you, not just as a player, but as a person?
Yeah, I think like it's really important to understand that like the highs are going to be great, but you're not going to, like, nothing is forever, right? Like change is the only constant. Is that the phrase?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really true. Like we felt at the time that every year we were going to make the championship. I mean, that's what I felt like.
Yeah.
And we're kind of doing it. And now that like era has like ended for a little bit, but it's like, and then we have had like a few low years, but it's like nothing, like either way, something's going to change. And so it's like, you don't need to worry about if you get in a bad rut like last year. I mean, I'm like I said, we shouldn't talk about it, but like we lost or we didn't get a point on the road until like June or something. But we like knew eventually, like some of the girls were so caught up in it, and I was like, for sure something's gonna change. Like you just nothing's constant.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what like my career so far has taught me, is that even when you're in a good moment, something might happen, and when you're in a bad moment, it's not gonna last forever.
Do you think that that's like the lasting culture of the Courage, is this like belief that things can always start to go your way, and this kind of confidence in the group?
Yes, I was gonna say, like, I think that the culture of the Courage is like the standards are high, and we have like, I mean, I've started to like, it's funny because I started to be like, we need to defend the legacy, and people are like, you're talking about yourself. And I'm like, yes, exactly.
I am.
But like we have something that's like we should be so proud of, and like we were so dominant, and I think that this year in particular, like we're really embracing that we want to be competitive, we want people to be scared to play us like they were, and we want to win every game.
I love that. Yeah. I was just talking to Jaden Shaw about this, and I asked, is the standard and the expectation to win? And she said yes. What do you think with signings like Jaden Shaw, and you know the team is entering into this season, what changes can we expect to see, and what kind of product should we be looking for from the Courage this year?
I give Sean a lot of credit because he has a vision and he's sticking with it, and he's kind of like maneuvering the pieces to, I think, every year make that vision a little bit more clear. I'm really genuinely very excited about the season. I think that with the addition of Jay, I think that, you know, some of our younger players have, now this is going to be their third season, so they have experience and a good group of veterans, that the locker room is great, and the style of football is very fun to watch. And I think when everything starts to click, which obviously is not going to happen game one, but like at practice you see some of the combinations and you see the execution from the players of like the coach's vision, and it's going to be really special. I think it's going to be exciting and pretty, which is cool.
That is really cool. I'm kind of going to circle this back around to off the field. Okay. Something you and I talk a lot about off camera is, or we did in the past, the pressures of people in our lives moving ahead in their careers while we're still kind of living this, or me historically, living this what I would describe as like a youthful lifestyle. Like we're still traveling every week and playing soccer and like living around our friends, but we see these other friends from home like moving on and having like real jobs. Knowing that we can't do this forever, do you ever feel like a pressure to move into a new career or keep up with the people outside of soccer that are in your life? Is that a burden or a pressure for you at all?
I think definitely a few years ago it was. I mean, I was, you know, I feel like I was like the average of the NWSL salary, and it was not like you were, you know, able to like be making investments, or really like you weren't saving a lot of money. And so I feel like at the time I was looking at, you know, like my friends from home or the people I went to school with, and I was like, wow, like their lifestyle is far and away different than mine. But I do think with the growth of the league now, like I feel less pressure to, I don't know if I would necessarily be making more money or be more successful at a regular job. I don't feel as left behind now, which is like a really great feeling.
When you mentioned the growth of the NWSL, and obviously there's been an increase in salaries, is there still a financial burden on the average NWSL player?
I would assume yes. I mean, I think I make more than the average NWSL player now, but I do think they're trying to do a lot of like support the rookies or the younger players, but definitely, I mean, the minimum needs to go up. I don't think that's like a hot take.
No, I don't either. I think that that's a great take. And I think that while we continue to like push the top to get higher, to your point, we should also make sure that the bottom continues to rise at a high rate. We're talking so much about this explosion in women's sports and the growth of the league. And I do think that there are still players in this league who are not saving a lot of money or making investments. And that's something that we can definitely improve.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I told someone, oh, I've played professional soccer for 10 years, they'd be like, oh, you're rich. And I'm like, well, I wish.
Yeah.
But maybe the people starting now in 10 years will be able to say that. And that's
the hope.
That's the hope.
You've gotten to go from being coached by your parents to sharing multiple NWSL championships with them. You've stuck it out in this league that has not always treated its players right, but you've steered this club, the Courage, through moves and coaches and uncertainty, and you really are the glue of this team and one of the most prolific players in this league who has been around for a long time. You understand the women's game in the US better than a lot of people do. You really have written this story that is unique to you. And so I think I'm wondering, we've talked a lot about how change is the only constant and you have this undying belief in the Courage. What does success mean to you, and how has the definition of that changed over the years that you've been doing this?
For sure. If you were like, what was like the most successful time in your career, I'm gonna say like 2018 and 2019. Like on the field success at the end of the day is like, I feel like the most tangible, obvious for any athlete. And those 2 years were like insane. But I also I know I keep saying it, but like also like having Heather in the documentary say what she said about me, or having like my friends or teammates say that like she made me feel like embraced and supported. And I think you can't have a successful team if the people on it don't, like, you can't push someone out of the comfort zone until they feel comfortable with you, which is like very paradoxical. But I do think that's the truth. And so that's what I try to do, is I try to make sure that before we like get into the grind of Courage training, the team feels like this is like a secure, safe place for them to be themselves. And then once you have those connections, you can push people like a little bit beyond their limits. And so I think like success for me is like looking back being like, the Courage is still one of the top women's teams in the world, and the foundation was built on people like me and you.
Yeah. What does success look like for you in 2025?
We're gonna win the championship.
I love to hear it. We're gonna end on that. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm so happy that you could come on the show.
Anytime.
I'll see you at home.
See you soon.
Thank you all so much for listening. This interview was so fun. It's kind of weird interviewing your really good friends, because sometimes you think you like kind of know how they're going to answer, but then they surprise you. So I really hope that everyone enjoyed hearing from Mary. Let me know what you thought of the episode. Send me an email at womensgamemib@menandblazers.com. Next week's guest is Angel City defender Sarah Gordon. I just spoke with Sarah, and we had a really amazing conversation about being a young mom in the league, evolving as a teammate, and Angel City's new head coach. I can't wait for you all to hear it. Also, yesterday we dropped a special episode with Wrexham's goal-scoring machine, Ava Suckley. That's available on this podcast and on TWG's YouTube channel. Thank you all so much for being here. We'll see you soon.